Before we dive into the chaos that unfolded this weekend, make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell because we're bringing you the most explosive college football analysis and insider takes that you won't find anywhere else. Saturday night in college football delivered the kind of earth-shattering results that make you question everything you thought you knew about the sport. Two games in particular sent shockwaves through the entire landscape, and the ramifications are still being felt as we speak. This wasn't just about upsets. This was about programs making statements, dynasties crumbling, and new powerhouses emerging from the shadows. Florida State taking care of number 8 Alabama 31-17. Let that sink in for a moment. Last year, Alabama missed the playoffs, and LSU-FSU had 2 wins, so both teams were looking to start from scratch. The Seminoles took the lead in the second quarter and never looked back, and what we witnessed was nothing short of a complete dismantling of what many considered a championship contender. So, let's show you where Alabama is right at this moment. And the numbers are absolutely staggering. DeBoer's started his Alabama tenure looking great. Oh my God, they were 4-0. They beat Kirby Smart in Georgia. They looked like they had a rocket ship to the moon. Since then, he is 4-5 in games against FBS teams. He's 1-4 as a double-digit favorite away from Tuscaloosa. Nick Saban in 17 years was 63-4 in games like that. The contrast couldn't be more stark, and it raises the question that's on everyone's mind. So Heather, bad game or bad sign for Alabama? Yes, the answer is both, Greg. I mean, look, it wasn't just about the loss. It was how they lost. Out-physicaled, outplayed up front, pushed around at the line of scrimmage. This wasn't even the SEC schedule. They've got one of the top 11 toughest schedules in the country. I have them out of my top 12 right now. The immediate aftermath was telling, and Paul Finebaum's reaction perfectly captured the magnitude of what had just occurred. Paul, I saw that when this game ended, all you did was tweet the phone number for your radio show on Monday. What do you imagine you heard from longtime Alabama people who say, "I want him out"? A local columnist has already called for his head. I mean, this is unprecedented. Let's not forget, this was a national championship contender. They have enormous talent, probably the second most talented team roster-wise in the country, but they look soft. DeBoer looks clueless at times. It feels like a house of cards. The criticism from Finebaum was scathing and direct. If Nick Saban watched this tape back yesterday, he would kick some of the kids off the team. That's how bad it was. And Alabama's problem is their controllables. You watch this defense run to the football and you're like, where is the effort to the ball? The angles to the ball? The tackling to the ball? It's not a talent issue, it's a controllables issue. And I think it is fair to say, can DeBoer survive September? And I know they have, I think, Louisiana Monroe coming up, and then it's Wisconsin, and then it's Georgia. When you watch this tape, they look like a shell of what Nick Saban had built them to become when it comes to effort and toughness and desire. They look like a shell of it. But before we get too deep into Alabama's crisis, we need to pause and give proper credit where it's due. Can we just take a timeout, though, to give some credit to Florida State? Totally. It's Labor Day. Come on, people. Totally. One team played with edge and one definitely didn't. But did you see what Mike Norvell did in a skinny minute at Florida State? This was one of the worst teams in the country last year. Yeah, and they just hammered this Alabama team. I mean, we should be talking also more seriously about Florida State. Totally. The transformation of Florida State under Mike Norvell has been nothing short of remarkable. This is a team that 2 years ago, many people thought got robbed of a chance to play in the playoff back when it was a 14 playoff. Then last year, they fell apart completely. To Heather's point, they win 2 games, now here they are back. And the comment that I heard from a lot of people being made, and Paul, this obviously is right up your alley, is that if you just watch that game, when you consider the reputations of the conferences, you would have thought Florida State was the SEC team, right? That's what it looked like. That's what it has looked like in the reverse for what feels like forever. And don't forget the final 2 choices for this job were Mike Norvell and DeBoer. And Greg Byrne went out and got DeBoer. That's embarrassing. I mean, do I need to tell anyone watching at this early hour? This is the University of Alabama we're talking about, with 6 national championships under Nick Saban. And that's what's driving people crazy. But I also want to sound a little bit like Heather here for a second. You can call for his firing all you want, but there is a financial reality. It would cost close to $70 million. Now this is, Texas A&M bought off Jimbo Fisher a couple years ago at 76. That's oil money. Alabama doesn't have oil wells. It is somewhat of a challenged state, and I don't think even if the season goes under, they're going to be able to get rid of him. While Alabama was imploding, another story was unfolding in Death Valley that would have equally significant implications for the college football landscape. Okay, so we'll keep a very close eye on them. Then we get to the Saturday night showdown of the two Tigers, the two Death Valleys, and this one lived up to the hype. Garrett Nussmeier throwing a go-ahead 8-yard touchdown pass in the fourth quarter. Number 9 LSU rallying past number 4 Clemson, 17-10. It's the first season opening win since 2019 for LSU. Oh, by the way, they wound up winning the national championship that year. They stifled Clemson quarterback Cade Klubnik. He was 19 of 38, 230 yards, and an interception. The performance by LSU was so dominant that it completely reshuffled the national championship conversation. So I'm cheating because you already told me the answer, but Heather, when the rankings come out this week, where should LSU be? LSU should be the number 1 team in the country. They went on the road. Ohio State won at home, albeit against a good team, and they beat a good team soundly. They made them one-dimensional. They exposed that. They limited them 31 rushing yards, like 1.9 yards per carry. Ridiculous. But the thing about LSU that's different is the defense, and Brian Kelly stressed this all offseason. They proved it. They backed him up. He said, "We have a defense capable of competing at the national title level." And the statistics, when you talk about defense, show they win championships. First 3 years under Brian Kelly, their offense great, defense average, right? Look at the last 3 national title winners: Georgia, Michigan, Ohio State, top 5 defenses. Brian Kelly has a complete team capable of competing for the national title. The transformation of Brian Kelly's status happened overnight. Brian Kelly finally, we all remember last year when he loses the game and he's pounding on the lectern, and now what do we say about him this morning? We're saying he is no longer on the hot seat. And I say that and people go, "What are you talking about?" I mean, I hear from LSU fans every day, and had he lost that game, Greeny, he would have been roasted today along with Kalen DeBoer and Steve Sarkisian. But that is not the case anymore. He went out into the portal, which he refused to do the year before, and he spent big money, and it paid off. And then that's the theme of college football right now. He's got the best quarterback in the country, though. I mean, Garrett Nussmeier is best quarterback in America. That's where I wanted to go, because I watch these games through 2 eyes. 1, as a football fan, 2, as the person who's going to be hosting the draft in April. And so I'm watching those 2 quarterbacks in particular, Nussmeier for LSU and Klubnik for Clemson. Give me the breakdown on both of them from Saturday. The analysis of both quarterbacks revealed a stark contrast in performance and potential. Nussmeier, significantly better. I think the 2 things that Garrett does better than anybody is 1, handles the pressure in the pocket, and then the ball comes out of his hands before guys are open on a consistent basis. That should all be like, going into this game, can Garrett Nussmeier handle this Clemson front? You saw him get to 2nd, 3rd, 4th progression quickly. The way that he moved away from some of those, whether guys were beat one-on-one pressures or some of the blitzes that Clemson threw at him, the ball comes out before guys are getting into their breaks. That's the number 1 way that quarterbacks can beat pressure. Athletically, I thought that he moved really well as well. The contrast with Clemson's quarterback was striking and concerning for Clemson fans. That was a stark difference to Cade Klubnik. I would tell you Cade Klubnik was much more disappointing than Arch Manning was to me for a guy that's made significantly more starts. Held onto the football, stared down the number 1 receiver, threw a couple of hospital balls, and for a guy that's as physically talented as he did, not make a ton of plays outside of the, I guess, expected. So that was the disappointing element Clemson-wise, but LSU and Nussmeier were wildly impressive on the road. So they're number 1. I think it was Greg McElroy last week telling me he would have started the season with Clemson at number 1. What does this loss mean for them? Well, Clemson can still obviously win the ACC and lock up a spot as one of the 5 highest-ranked conference champions, but I dropped them significantly, and the rest of their ACC schedule isn't that great in terms of compensating for this. And then you've got South Carolina, which we talked about Llanera Sellers. If they play today, I'm going to pick South Carolina for sure. So if you go 0-2 against the SEC and you're fighting for an at-large bid, could be a little dicey. The broader implications for Clemson's program credibility were evident in the discussion. Clemson's offensive line's got to play a lot better than it did Saturday night. I was all in on Clemson. This is the fourth straight loss to an SEC team, and that hurts the credibility of the program, which I thought had overcome all the doomsday dynasty talk by people like me. So it's a shattering loss for them, but Heather is right. I mean, their path back is not that difficult because of the schedule, other than maybe South Carolina at the end of the season. At South Carolina, we'll see. And Florida State looking good, and Miami looking good, so suddenly, maybe the path to winning the conference, not so easy. In a perfect capstone to an unforgettable day of college football, Lee Corso delivered a performance of the ages. By the way, I want to show you this, because the numbers for Lee Corso on Saturday were enormous. And that's on two fronts. First of all, his show was spectacular. I hope everybody had a chance to watch Lee Corso. It was the highest rated college game day ever. But here's what you may